So today I want to talk a little bit about why I think Fidelity is a great resource and why I think you should set up an account with Fidelity as maybe like the centralized hub for all of your, sort of Bitcoin or, your personal finance stuff. I'll also mention a little bit about self-custody and kind of where that fits into this, because I know a lot of you guys have questions about that. But what I like about Fidelity and our Fidelity account is that I can see everything. I can log in and I can see everything in one place. And I can easily move stuff around in between accounts. So what I mean by see everything in one place, with Fidelity, you can have a cash management account, which is basically a checking account, which is awesome. You can also have a taxable brokerage account, which is going to allow you to buy all of the different instruments that we're going to talk about here in a minute. Rollover IRA, convert, your 401k, maybe your company even uses Fidelity for your 401k, your HSA, Roth IRA, and I think it's just and also the crypto, they have a crypto account as well. Now, unfortunately, like in my state, they don't actually offer that. So it's not available in every state because I think it has to do with like regulations and stuff like that. So those are some of just to give you an idea of some of the accounts that you're able to sort of house in there. By the way, if you're new, I'm Brad, and I'm on a mission to help millennials and Gen Xers more deeply integrate Bitcoin into their personal finances. I successfully paid off $174,000 worth of 2.5 years. Right after that, I discovered Bitcoin and the FIRE movement. I've been coaching people through their personal finances for over 17 years now, and I'm currently working on integrating Bitcoin more deeply into my wife's and my personal finances. So Fidelity is where I'm experimenting with, BTCI right now. I'm also looking into Stretch. I'm in the process of watching and rewatching the strategy third quarter earnings call so that I can learn more about each one of those 4 preferred stocks that they have in there. But I'm really, in full transparency, my wife and I are sort of in a FIRE posture, like I would say a semi-FIRE posture. I left corporate America back in 2019. I was in corporate software sales for the better part of about 15 years. I got super burned out the last 5 years and had started my coaching practice, my personal finance coaching practice. And in 2019, we had saved and invested enough. It wasn't the number that we wanted to reach, but we'd saved and invested enough that we said, you know what, hey, I can't do this anymore. So let's just figure this out. And so it's been great. We've been very blessed, and we will hopefully continue to be. So our posture right now is obviously we want to keep our Bitcoin that we have on chain in self-custody as our capital growth strategy. So, for that we have, obviously on-chain Bitcoin, we have gold and silver, some of those kinds of assets are what we're looking at for long-term capital growth. I would say that the cycle that we're in right now helped my wife and me figure out like, okay, we're a little bit over allocated because like many people, we thought like, all right, we're going to the moon this time with all of this corporate adoption and nation state adoption and strategic reserves and all that stuff. We're certainly we're not going back down to 80. So we got caught a little bit flat-footed. We're not in any kind of danger. It's just a little bit uncomfortable. And so one of the things that we've looked at, and we were looking at this before, and I've more deeply gone into, down this BTCI rabbit hole. By the way, they just, we should be getting the deposit for the disbursements today. So I'm going to be doing a whole video on, where we started last month and what the update is on the value of that, what our income is, because that's really very much where we are right now, is we want to use the assets that we've worked so hard to save and grow and start generating income, start generating yield off of those so that we can, live a little bit more freely and not be so, beholden to these market dips and switches. Because I think that part of, what I'm seeing in the community, what I'm hearing in terms of other Bitcoiners and other FIRE adherents is that, buying the dip is not necessarily the most efficient or the most psychologically or emotionally effective strategy when we're in a posture like this. So we're on a mission to, just basically sort of change that right now. So we're semi-fire, left corporate America in 2019. I've been doing coaching and consulting. I'm also in the process of kind of putting my foot in, dipping my toe back into the Bitcoin startup job marketplace. I did work with a company earlier this year, a Bitcoin self-custody focus, which I want to cover that here in a second. And I really enjoyed the experience for the most part. And so we are looking at, W-2 income. I'm kind of in this posture in my life and my career right now where I have all of this, body of knowledge of coaching people, of doing Bitcoin for over 12 years now, being in the self-custody space inside of that. And I think a good number of us see this sort of emerging place that the market is coming to where, Bitcoin and personal finance, traditional personal finance, need to be more intricately interwoven. So I really want to kind of lend my voice to that. Now, let me just speak real quick to the whole idea of self-custody, sort of when you want to do that. I recognize that, a lot of you guys are in the process where you're in the posture where you're still, trying to stack, your main Bitcoin stash. Okay. So you're trying to get to 0.1, 0.21, 0.5, 1 Bitcoin, and beyond. I would say my recommendation, having been in this space for so long and really truly buying into sort of the libertarian ideals of, this is money outside the state, that you do ultimately your main Bitcoin stack, your main Bitcoin high yield savings account, if you will, should always be in self-custody. And so what I mean by self-custody is that you've got a software wallet, a hardware wallet, that ideally you're running your own node. You've got a system in place where your seed phrase is always offline, stamped in steel or titanium, and then you're also using a passphrase. These are things that I do walk my private clients through. If you guys want me to do more content about, just sort of the system that I help clients set up with that, I'd be more than happy to do that. But once, I would say, especially if you're new to Bitcoin, once you have over $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, I think that's when it's a really good idea to start looking at getting a hardware wallet, generating a seed phrase, and because it is true, not your keys, not your coins. So with that in place, it's great to then have, like for us, we've got, probably 25-ish% of our overall net worth is kind of trapped in the legacy system. And that's the part that we manage inside of the Fidelity ecosystem. Now, I will say that as Bitcoin, sort of re-engages with this bull market, we are actually, I know this is going to sound sacrilegious, but we're actually kind of toying around with the idea of selling off a slice of our on-chain long-term savings, because we're sort of switching our posture into looking at our, kind of bifurcating our overall net worth into a Bitcoin net worth and into a fiat net worth. And I'll be talking a lot more about this in future videos. This cycle has really changed some things for us in terms of, you just never know where things are going. And it's always good to have fiat as dry powder. Unfortunately, we all still live in a fiat world. And so having dry powder, not only for, as an emergency fund, having dry powder in terms of fiat as an emergency fund, but also as an opportunity that, hey, look, if Bitcoin goes down to 50 or 40 or 30 or 10, we've got some resources that we can deploy to scoop up some more. So that's kind of where we're headed. I'd be interested, obviously Fidelity doesn't have to be this, serve as this hub. I'd be interested, what are you guys using? What do you guys recommend? What income instruments? Are you doing any of these covered call ETFs or any of the strategy preferred stocks? So I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Like, share, subscribe, of course, and I'll see you in the next video. Okay, since you made it this far in the video, I wanted to offer 2 resources that will help you integrate Bitcoin more deeply into your personal finances. Number 1, Gemini's Orange Bitcoin MasterCard. You can earn up to 4% Bitcoin on everyday purchases like gas, dining, groceries, retail purchases. There's no annual fee, no foreign transaction fees, and no exchange fees on any of your rewards. Plus, If you sign up today using my link in the video description below, you get $200 in Bitcoin when you spend $3,000 in your first 90 days. And if you're watching this before December 8th, Gemini is currently offering 5% cash back in Bitcoin for everything on every purchase up to $2,500. The link is in the description and the comments below. Number two, I'm also offering one-to-one calls to answer questions and to help you integrate Bitcoin into your personal finances more deeply, including traditional FIRE and Bitcoin planning, as well as Bitcoin self-custody. The link is in the video description below for that.